From the Presidential Palace, Manila, Dateline Malacañang.
Good day, this is Dateline Malacañang, and here are the news. On the top story, in a continued effort to combat hunger and malnutrition in the country, Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. led the awarding of the Walang Gutom Awards or GWA, recognizing local government units or LGUs with outstanding anti-hunger initiatives and practices on food security in a ceremony at the Ceremonial Hall in Malacañang Palace. Spearheaded by the Philippine Department of Social Welfare and Development or DSWD and the Galing Pook Foundation or GPF. The WGA aims to honor and replicate the best practices of LGUs in addressing food security and nutrition challenges, ultimately contributing to the nation's goal of eradicating involuntary hunger by 2027. The DSWD Sustainable Livelihood Program, or SLP, has allocated 2 million Philippine peso each to 10 winning LGUs across the Philippines, providing a significant funding boost for their community development projects. The winning LGU initiatives and programs were chosen based on a comprehensive set of criteria, including their impact on food security and nutrition, community engagement, innovation, resilience, sustainability, and efficiency in service delivery. Let us listen to Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr.
Your Excellency Hai Kyong Yu, the Ambassador of Australia to the Philippines, of course, the Asian Development Bank Country Director Pavit Ramachandran, and the Special Assistant to the President, Secretary Anton Lagdameo, of course, Galing Pook Foundation Chairperson Mel Sarmiento, DSWD Undersecretary Ed Punay, and local chief executives who have joined us here this morning. Not only the awardees, but all of local government officials, as this really is dependent upon you, as usual, to bring these programs to the ground level. And of course, the 2024 participants to the Walang Gutom Awards. My fellow workers in government, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It is a day today filled with promise and opportunity as we address a matter of utmost significance that affects millions still of fellow Filipinos, and that is the problem of hunger. According to data from the DSWD, nearly 12% of Filipino families, around 3 million households, still experienced hunger at least once over the last 3 months of 2022. 1 in 3 Filipino children under 5 years old is still suffering from stunted growth due to malnutrition. Our ranking in the Global Hunger Index, or GHI, is also far from ideal, with the country scoring 14.8 or moderately hungry, which fares below the regional score of East and Southeast Asia of 8.2. We are aware of the challenges that we face, but we see the potential to change this situation. We see this in our NGOs and social workers, our partners from the diplomatic corps and the different international agencies, the social workers who are reaching out to help as much as they can, in our many communities coming together so as that we can feed the hungry and the less fortunate. In every Filipino working hard to provide food for themselves and for their families. To add to these efforts, last October, I signed Executive Order number 44, Walang Gutom 2027, the food stamp program. Implemented through the DSWD, it provides monetary assistance for targeted beneficiaries to purchase food commodities from eligible partner merchant stores. More than that, it provides the government with valuable data to monitor the progress of our beneficiaries in addressing their food problems, ensuring that their families are getting the food and the nutrition that they require. However, even as the national government is more than willing to take the lead in helping address this problem of hunger through these programs, we acknowledge that we also need to tap and partner with our local governments, as we always do when it comes to making a program reach the grassroots level. As agents of the government on the ground, our LGUs not only have a better knowledge and have good insights on the incidence of hunger in their localities, but also provide maybe perhaps better programs, better strategies, or approaches to address hunger, specific to the areas that their constituents lie. And that is why today we confer the Walang Gutom Awards, or the WGA, to recognize the local governments that have been exceptional in addressing hunger in their communities. Evaluated on the criteria of impact, of inclusivity, innovation, resilience, sustainability, and efficiency, these LGUs have implemented fresh, new, and exciting ideas in their respective food programs, as well as brought renewed impetus in our collective drive against hunger in our country. I thank the Galing Polk Foundation and the DSWD, led by Secretary Rex Gatchalian, for coming up with this initiative. To all the 17 finalists of this year's Walang Gutom Awards, I salute you. Each of you has already won and have been included in the prestigious list of nominees. I likewise acknowledge, of course, the 101 local government units, from barangays to municipalities and cities to provinces, that filed their application and participated in this year's pilot program implementation. Your involvement in the process means a lot to the national government, especially as we aim to put an end to hunger that has been causing suffering to the vulnerable and marginalized in the Philippines for many decades. You are already Walang Gutom champions in the hearts and minds of our people, and I hope that you will continue to sustain or even improve upon your noteworthy programs. Indeed, we need more LGUs like you to achieve our mission of Walang Gutom by 2027. And I pray that this year's awards will also spur and inspire other LGUs to replicate your successes across the country. So now I invite all our LGUs to look at these outstanding programs of our nominees, see how and why their programs work, and examine whether you can adopt or improve these further to apply them in your communities. The national government will also be taking notes to see what more can be done at the national level. So our takeaway from this event should be that each and every one of us can contribute to the success of our campaign against hunger. If we are truly to succeed in this endeavor, we must put in a whole-of-nation approach to create a lasting solution to this great challenge. I call upon our government and our partners from the private sector, from the non-profit organizations, citizens, our friends in from the international community, and citizens to work together as a united front and Walang Gutom advocates. I remember it is topical that we speak of this now. I remember sitting in that spot and being interviewed very early on. I think it's my third day in office. And I was being interviewed, and the interviewer asked me, what would you like to be your legacy for your presidency, for your administration? And it was a question that I was not prepared for. It is a question that I had not actually thought about. But the answer came to me in an instant. Wala nang gutom. Wala nang gutom na Pilipino. That is my dream. No hungry Filipino. So thank you for being part of that effort. It is as noble a cause as we can possibly have, is to make sure that every single Filipino, each and every one of whom we love like a family member, never again feel the pangs of hunger. And that, I think, if we can achieve that, then I think we can claim to have led a good life. So let us move forward with determination, with compassion, and with purpose to build a bagong Pilipinas where food is not only affordable, but plentiful, where every bagong Filipino leads a good, healthy, and productive life. Once again, congratulations to our nominees and to our awardees. Mabuhay ang bagong Pilipinas.
Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr.
Dateline Malacañang.
Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. has issued a proclamation reserving a portion of land in Tondo, Manila for ownership and development of the Department of Human Settlements and Urban Development, or DHSUD. Proclamation number 610, signed by Executive Secretary Lucas Bersamin on June 21, was issued by the President upon the recommendation of the Secretary of the Department of Environment and Natural Resources, or DENR. A copy of the proclamation was made available to the media on Wednesday. The issuance amends Proclamation number 96, series of 2001, by excluding a certain portion of the land identified as Lot 4A, CSD-00-003715, located in Tondo, Manila, allowing DHSUD to own it and carry out urban development subject to final ground survey. The identified portion of land has a total land area of 21,872 square meters. The new proclamation authorized the DENR Secretary to issue the corresponding special patent covering the area reserved for DHSUD's township development projects. The issuance also creates a Project Interagency Committee, or PIAC, to be chaired by DHSUD with the DENR and the City Government of Manila as members. The PIAC is tasked to formulate and issue the implementing rules and regulations of the proclamation and identify the beneficiaries of the housing component of the township development.
Dateline Malacañang.
The Philippines Legislative Executive Development Advisory Council, or LEDAC, on Tuesday has agreed to prioritize the passage of 28 bills under the Common Legislative Agenda, or CLA, within the 19th Congress, or by June 2025. The LEDAC, chaired by Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. and composed of representatives from the Senate, the House of Representatives, and the Cabinet, is a high-level advisory body that sets the legislative priorities of the government. In its meeting, LEDAC approved 18 bills as top priority, 8 of which are already in advanced stages in the legislative process, and 10 bills as second priority for passage. NEDA Secretary Arsenio Balisacan said the timely passage of these bills is critical in strengthening the country's economic governance and ensuring that the country is on track in implementing infrastructure flagship projects and maintaining fiscal sustainability. The top 10 priority bills are as follows: reforms to Philippine capital markets, Archipelagic Sea Lanes Act, amendments to the Right-of-Way Act, excise tax on single-use plastics, rationalization of the mining fiscal regime, amendments to the Electric Power Industry Reform Act, or IPIRA, Department of Water Resources, the corporate recovery and tax incentives for enterprises to maximize opportunities for reinvigorating the economy, or Create More Act, amendments to the Foreign Investors Long-Term Lease Act, and amendments to the rice tariffication law. The 8 measures that are already in its advanced stages are the Anti-Agricultural Economic Sabotage Act, amendments to the Government Procurement Reform Act, Anti-Financial Account Scamming Act, Self-Reliant Defense Posture Revitalization Act, Philippine Maritime Zones Act, Academic Recovery and Accessible Learning or ARAL Program Act, Value-Added Tax or VAT on Digital Services, and the new Government Auditing Code. Meanwhile, the second priority bills are as follows: the Blue Economy Act, the Enterprise-Based Education and Training Framework Act, amendments to the Universal Healthcare Act, Open Access in Data Transmission Act, Waste to Energy Bill, Mandatory Reserve Officers Training Corps or ROTC, Unified System of Separation, Retirement and Pension of Military and Uniformed Personnel, E-Government Act or E-Governance Act, amendments to the Agrarian Reform Law, and the Philippine Immigration Act.
Dateline Malacañang.
The National Economic and Development Authority or NEDA board, chaired by Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. on Tuesday, approved the flagship infrastructure project to boost broadband connectivity and strengthen cybersecurity. In a statement, the NEDA board said it approved the Philippine Digital Infrastructure Project or PDIP and the adjustments to the parameters of 9 other ongoing projects during a meeting in Malacañang. The 16.1 billion PDIP, which will be financed through official development assistance from the World Bank, aims to enhance the country's broadband connectivity and bring high-speed internet connection even in disadvantaged areas. It aims to augment digital infrastructure to bridge the digital divide, stimulate private sector investments, and strengthen capacity for cybersecurity and for protecting critical information infrastructure. The project, which is anchored on the National Broadband Program, a flagship initiative of the Department of Information and Communications Technology or DICT, involves the construction of a public broadband infrastructure network. This network comprises 5 major components: backbone network, middle mile network, last mile access network, network security and project management support. NEDA Secretary Arsenio Balisacan said this project will enable the country to connect more Filipinos to markets and networks, spurring economic development. Aside from the PDIP, the board also approved the adjustments to various parameters of 9 ongoing infrastructure projects, 7 of which are part of the infrastructure flagship projects list. These are the Local Governance Reform Project, Infrastructure Preparation and Innovation Facility, New Cebu International Container Port Project, Light Rail Transit Line 1 South Extension Project, Malolos-Clark Railway Project, Tranche 1, Metro Manila Flood Management Project Phase 1, Reconstruction and Development Plan for a Greater Marawi Stage 2, Improving Growth Corridors in Mindanao Road Sector Project, and the Panguil Bay Bridge Project. The changes involve the project scope, cost, extension of implementation, period, and loan validity. Balisacan said the adjustments to these ongoing infrastructure projects were necessary to ensure their successful completion, advancing the country's national efforts to expand and upgrade infrastructure, improve connectivity, and create more jobs.
Dateline Malacañang.
As the world celebrates the Day of the Seafarer 2024, Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. reiterated his administration's thrust for a modern and future-ready maritime industry in the country. In a social media post, the president paid tribute to Filipino seafarers, who he said are considered among the best in the world, driving the growth of both the international shipping industry and the global economy. The chief executive added that his administration, through the Department of Transportation or DOTR, will continue to advance the country's maritime industry and secure the best interest of all Filipino seafarers. President Marcos lauded the Maritime Industry Authority or Marina for complying with international standards and keeping at par with other nations when it comes to this specialized industry. Celebrated every June 25, the Day of the Seafarer is an annual celebration organized by the International Maritime Organization or IMO to recognize the valuable contribution seafarers make to international trade and the world economy. It was established in a resolution adopted by the 2010 Diplomatic Conference in Manila to adopt the revised standards of training, certification, and watchkeeping convention. Nearly a quarter of the world's seafarers are Filipinos.
Dateline Malacañang.
Malacañang is set to hold another concerto sa Palasyo or concert at the palace to honor Filipino healthcare workers. In a statement, the Presidential Communications Office or PCO said, the concerto sa Palasyo para sa ating mga healthcare workers will be held on Sunday evening, June 30th. It will be broadcast live on the Facebook pages of Radio Television Malacañang and Concerto sa Palasyo. The fourth installment of the concert will feature the Aita brothers representing the Aita Magansi tribe of Pampanga province. The singing duo, according to the PCO, uses their voice to be an inspiration not only for their tribe but also for other members of indigenous tribes in the Philippines. Aita brothers Arjan Gilbert and Jason Narciso are also pursuing their education to inspire others and to prove that indigenous peoples can be achievers and contribute to society. Also performing are Filipino music icon Martin Rivera, musician and content creator Justine Toller, theater artist Lara Maige, Leyte Normal University student Cristel Galacan, who was discovered during the PCO Community Campus Caravan, pole dancer athlete Cristel De Catalina, and other up-and-coming local artists. Malacañang previously held concerto sa Palasyo for soldiers in April of 2023, athletes in August 2023, and teachers in October of 2023. The palace said the event aims to highlight the new phases of performing artists across the country.
Dateline Malacañang.
The Philippine Department of Migrant Workers or DMW said it will no longer allow boarding of Filipino seafarers on ships that were attacked by Houthi rebels in the Red Sea and Gulf of Aden. In a press briefing, DMW Secretary Hans Leo Kakdak said at the very least, the three principal ship owners of MV Galaxy Leader, MV True Confidence, and MV Tutor will no longer be processed or allow the boarding of seafarers as these vessels had been the subject of attack. The DMW Secretary said the DMW has been in discussion with maritime stakeholders for risk and security assessment and to intensify the protection of Filipino seafarers. On the right of refuse sailing, Kakdak said ship owners need to improve the time element on giving notices to Filipino seafarers that the vessel they are boarding will navigate through high-risk zones. Kakdak said 78 Filipino seafarers have so far refused to sail and ship owners acknowledge their decisions. The DMW issued guidelines in March for licensed manning agencies or LMAs to observe in case a Filipino seafarer is assigned on ships that would pass by high-risk and warlike areas. Department Order Number 1 states of paramount interest is continued safety and well-being of all Filipino seafarers in light of the increasing incidents of piracy, hijacking, and or armed violence against ships passing through the Red Sea, Gulf of Aden, and surrounding areas or waters. The DMW ordered principal ship owners and LMAs to divert their routes and avoid passing through the Red Sea, the Gulf of Aden, and nearby areas. 21 Filipino seafarers of MV Tutor have returned home after their vessel was attacked by Houthi rebels on June 12. However, one Filipino remained missing. Another bulk carrier, MV Trans World Navigator, was attacked on Sunday. All 27 Filipino crew members are safe. Secretary Kakdak said the DMW will ask authorities in maritime security such as the Philippine Navy and Philippine Coast Guard and the Department of Foreign Affairs to help them in risk assessment.
Dateline Malacañang.
Kuwait has lifted a visa ban on the deployment of Filipino skilled workers, including domestic workers, according to Migrant Workers Secretary Hans Leo Kakdak. In a press briefing, Secretary Kakdak confirmed the lifting, saying this is part of Undersecretary Bernard Olalia's visit to Kuwait last week. For the deployment of domestic workers, he said Kuwaiti authorities agreed to the proposal of the Philippines to limit the deployment to those with work experience, similar to the deferment in February 2023. Due to the murder case of overseas Filipino worker or OFW Julie B. Renara, then Secretary Susan Tuts Ople limited the deployment of domestic workers to Kuwait to only those with previous work experience and banning first-timers. In May 2023, Kuwait suspended all new visas for Philippine passport holders. With this deployment, or rather development, Kakdak said a 2-week to 1-month adjustment period is needed to set the relevant issuances and work on the regulations on the resumption of deployment of newly hired and skilled workers to Kuwait. Secretary Kakdak said the DMW is now working with their legal team together with Renara's family for the filing of civil action for damages against the Kuwaiti responsible for her death. Secretary Kakdak said Olalia also gathered information on the status of the Almanga fire early this June, where several OFWs were affected. He said that DMW lawyers are now looking at legal liabilities on the side of the employers and the building owners, adding that legal action could be filed on behalf of the victims. 3 OFWs died due to smoke inhalation. 2 sustained major injuries while 6 were safe. The remains of those who died have been repatriated to the Philippines. Kuwaiti authorities are still investigating the cause, or rather the case.
Dateline Malacañang.
The Philippine Department of Foreign Affairs, or DFA, is waiting for the United States to formally confirm or deny the alleged report that the Pentagon carried out an anti-vaccine campaign targeting Filipino nationals at the height of the coronavirus pandemic. In a Senate hearing on Tuesday, DFA Assistant Secretary Jose Victor Chan Gonzaga said the agency had immediately reached out to the U.S. Embassy and authorities right after hearing the report by Reuters, which first broke the story on June 14. The official said the DFA was initially referred to the Department of Defense, or DoD, and received the same statement publicly issued by Pentagon spokesperson Lisa Lawrence, who did not confirm nor deny the report. As of this posting, Chan Gonzaga said the DFA have not received any official and formal response yet in terms of any confirmation, denial, or anything. The investigative report released by Reuters alleged that the U.S. military launched a clandestine program amid the coronavirus disease pandemic to discredit China's Sinovac inoculation, payback for Beijing's efforts to blame Washington for the pandemic, and that the target was the Filipino public. Pressed how the country interprets this statement, Philippine Foreign Affairs Secretary Enrique Manalo only said he thinks this is a declaration of U.S. policy that will take deterrence to malign influence against them. In the same Senate hearing, Teodoro said he believes that if it is neither a confirmation nor a denial, then the burden of proof is on the asserter to prove something.
Dateline Malacañang.
The Philippine Department of Foreign Affairs or DFA is working to convene a dialogue with China in the hopes of creating some confidence-building measures after the June 17 incident involving the Chinese Coast Guard disrupting a Philippine resupply mission to Ayungin Shoal that severely injured one Filipino soldier. In a Senate hearing Tuesday, DFA Secretary Enrique Manalo said the agency, in consultation with the National Maritime Council, agreed on the primacy of dialogue and diplomacy, even in the face of these serious incidents. The Philippines and China have an existing mechanism for dialogue on issues surrounding the South China Sea called the Bilateral Consultation Mechanism or BCM. Last week, Manalo said a working group discussion was convened in preparation for what is being slated as the 9th BCM meeting. Manalo said the DFA is hoping to convene the meeting by early July. The regular meeting, should it proceed, would most likely cover the June 17 incident, but Manalo also hopes to see whether the two states can arrive at some kind of confidence-building measures. Manalo said these confidence-building measures could hopefully create a basis for more serious discussions to see how the two states can address issues in the area. On top of bilaterally engaging with China, Manalo said the Philippines is working closely with other international partners and on the multilateral front to promote a rules-based order in the region. On top of denouncing China's actions in a public statement, Manalo confirmed that the DFA has reached out to the Chinese Foreign Ministry and its embassy in the Philippines to sternly communicate Manila's position on the incident. The Veterans Federation of the Philippines, or VFP, also rallied behind President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr.'s firm assertion of Manila's sovereignty, sovereign rights, and jurisdiction in the WPS in accordance with the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, or UNCLOS. VFP President and Chief Executive Officer retired Major General Romeo Alamilio, in a statement said their hearts beat as one with Filipino military personnel, especially soldiers stationed at the BRP Sierra Madre, which serves as Manila's outpost in the Ayungin Shoal. The group also condemned the Chinese Coast Guard's barbaric, demeaning, and provocative acts against Philippine troops during the June 17 rotation and resupply mission in the area. Alamilio, meanwhile, urged all Filipinos to unite in support of those who risk their lives to defend what is right, to protect what is ours, and to secure our future. On Tuesday, the Philippine Navy reported that a total of 129 various Chinese vessels were spotted in various features in the West Philippine Sea from June 18 to June 24. This is slightly higher than the 121 vessels reported from June 11 to June 17, the PN said in an advisory. These include 14 China Coast Guard vessels or CCGVs, 5 People's Liberation Army Navy planned ships, and 110 Chinese Maritime Militia vessels or CMMVs. These ships were spotted in the following features: Bajo de Masinloc, Ayungin Shoal, Pag-asa Island, Lawak Island, Panata Island, and Recto Bank.
Dateline Malacañang.
Finally, for Dateline Malacañang, the Philippine Commission on Elections or COMELEC expressed hope that the use of the online voting and counting system or OVCs in the May 2025 midterm polls would lure more overseas Filipinos to sign up. COMELEC Chairperson George Erwin Garcia said in a press briefing On the sidelines of the contract signing for the OVC's project with a joint venture of SMS Global Technologies Incorporated, or SMS, and Sequent Tech Inc., at the poll body's main office in Intramuros, Manila on Tuesday. Garcia lamented that only 200,000 Filipinos abroad have so far signed up as new voters since the start of the overseas voter registration last December. He said the 1.697 million registered overseas Filipino voters in the May 2022 polls have decreased following the deactivation of many voters due to various reasons. Meanwhile, SMS President Anthony Angeles vowed to assist the poll body in encouraging more Filipinos abroad to register. Last month, the Comelec and Bank awarded a project to the JV of SMS and Sequent Tech Incorporated after it was declared as having the lowest calculated bid at 112 million pesos, much lower than the project's approved budget of 465.8 million pesos. Meanwhile, the service provider assured Filipinos that their system is fully secured amid threats of hacking. The overseas voting period for the 2025 polls will run from April 13, 2025 to May 12, 2025.
Dateline Malacañang.
And that is all for today's Dateline Malacañang. For Radyo Pilipinas World Service, this has been Bea Gaza.
From the Presidential Palace, Manila, Dateline Malacañang.